It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a modern podcast where we talk about everything that's great, like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate. Oh yeah.
Hello everyone and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, and superheroes, so let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris.
And my name is Mike.
And this week, we're planning our big game watch party, Mike.
Ooh. I think we should be treating the Super Bowl like we are Steamboat Willie now, where we can let's just say it. Let's just reclaim it.
It's down there. It's down there. I didn't want to get us flagged in the first 30 seconds, but that's fine. We'll get flagged then. But we're gonna talk a little bit about that. Star Wars is getting a What If show.
Ooh, interesting.
Kind of, yeah. I got some similarities for that. It's pretty cool. Indiana Jones takes us to his great circle. Wink, wink.
Oh, I feel like
it's a video game, guys. It's a video game. There we go. We'll get it out of the way. It's not that great circle, but we wish it was, and more.
Hey, if I can see that big, great circle of his in the Apple Vision Pro and all of its $3,000 glory, and I can move my head in and move my head out, I'm in for it.
I was watching that, obviously, because we've been following it. When it launched for pre-order this week, it's $3,500 minimum, plus a $200 battery, plus a $200 headset, plus another $200 carrying case. I was like, this is getting up about I think it was about $5,000 in the cart when you add all the stuff that they want you to have when it launches. Other than just, hey, I'm going to put it on my coffee table for a little bit.
I think VR headsets are so cool. The idea and everything about them are cool. But I have a Meta Quest 2 that I picked up on Facebook Marketplace on the cheap. And, I throw it on occasionally, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. But still nothing has been so compelling where I felt like I'm going to use it as much as any standard video game I've ever played, right? But I'm hoping somebody can change that, because it's just cool, but it just seems like nobody has figured out that what is the must-have, must-do thing in VR. Because honestly, I feel like it's almost more fun just watching other people try it for the first time, because it's oh, that's fun, but once all your friends have tried it, who else do you kind of have to prank,
Well, I think the difference is, again, I have the 3, and the mixed reality has changed my perception of that a little bit, right? That way, when you put on when I put on my old 2, I was in a room, and I was sucked in. I couldn't do anything else other than if I wanted to see that black and white grainy version of their cameras, I'm I can look through this. But the immersion, the other immersion is great, but what I can't do, and someone who plays video games quite a bit and uses my VR headset, is after 30 minutes, I feel the weight, I feel the heat from my face in the headset, and it's uncomfortable to wear. So I think it's not maybe the must-haves, it's how do we make this so you don't know you're wearing it, and it's just there. More easier, because I can't stand my face getting hot in these things. No matter if it's fabric or plastic or whatever, they've tried them all. My face just feels hot because of that, being stuck there. So I think once they find a way to make it oh, you don't know you're really wearing it, I think that'll be the kicker.
I mean, I know we're already we're on this tangent already, so I'm riding it. But we've briefly mentioned there's a VR headset, I think called Big Screen is the name of it.
The app.
And those are kind of the coolest version of VR goggles, because they're just putting the visual components in a headset. So they literally look like very small welding goggles. And you're supposed to 3D scan your face, so they make a custom printed cushion for your face and everything. But that's all that's in the component. There has to be a cable that runs to something. So it's just well, some might think, oh, maybe the best thing to do is put all the compute power in the headset. But if Apple Vision Pro, if Apple Vision Pro is already saying, hey, you're going to have a cable with a battery, let's just move all the computer parts out of the headset and just put it into this battery pack, because you already have it tethered anyway. I mean, yeah, it's going to make the battery pack computer part heavier, but I feel I'd rather have that supported on my waist than on my face.
If you want to preview that, the augmented reality, the X-Real augmented reality glasses are very similar, because you have to have a cord to power them. They can be run on a Switch or your consoles or your handheld. I think that's a really good example of what that would look like, minus the VR part of it, right? It's maybe the AR is like half there, but they are really cool to do. But at the same time with that, I'm like, I had them for under 30 days because that was the return window. I'm like, I can't find a reason that I would use these more than my current computer or phone. And once I realized that, and Mike, me, it's hard for me to admit I got something I didn't like. I sent it back because I'm like, I'm gonna regret having these. They're gonna be expensive, and I'm not gonna use them. So I'm gonna send them back until another version in a year or two comes along. And obviously we talked a little bit. I don't know if it was us or somewhere, but like the invisible TVs at CES this year, right? Year 2 of the clear TVs. It's like condense that down to some glasses, and that's what it kind of looks like at the end of the day. So I think it's fun. I'm excited. I just I balk at the price of an Apple Vision Pro headset. Once you look at all the necessities you have to have.
Yeah, you know how many Peacock subscriptions you could sign up for?
Yeah.
For the price
2?
of one Apple Vision Pro?
It's
insane.
At least 2. How many Applebee's subscription cards can you get for that price, Mike?
Oh my gosh. We were just talking about that. If you don't know about the Applebee's subscription card, this is nuts. They have to be limiting these things because I can't imagine they would be solvent as a company if they let everybody buy these. So for a single $200, and I believe it's a yearly price. So for like a $200 yearly subscription, you get $30 off of Applebee's every 24-hour period, which is insane. And I don't believe that there's a limit to what you have to buy. So you just show up, you buy something for like $25, whatever, you flash them your golden card, it's free. Come back in a next day, do the same thing. Like if you do the math, it's like $15,000 worth of food for like $200. That's insanity.
So here's the sticker. It's valid 52 times. You can use it essentially once a week.
Oh, is it once a week? I thought it was once a day.
It's once a day, but you have 52 times to use it within a year.
Oh, well, I think still 52.
It takes 15,000 to 1,500 essentially is what it does if you look at the math. But
yeah, it's still either way. Yeah. You're bleeding your local Applebee's dry. You got to go do it.
Right. Can I use it on liquor? What can I use it on?
I don't think you can.
No,
I think there's like special
beverages.
Restrictions around liquor. But Chris was lamenting the existence of Applebee's before we hit record.
I hate Applebee's.
And I was like, well, heck, you got to get everyone in your neighborhood. Isn't that the whole slogan with Applebee's? Something in the neighborhood, or I don't know.
Good in the neighborhood. I don't know if that's it or not.
Like that's the most intriguing thing is I don't think Applebee's has strategically thought about what if all of these gold cards get sold to the exact same neighborhood? Like they're expecting to be like, spread out across the country. No, Chris, everyone in your neighborhood gets all of the cards available and they all go to the same Applebee's and they just drain it until it's gone. Like, just like, you go to the dermatologist and they're just like pulling something out of, I'll stop there, but that's how you, Chris, that's how you get rid of the Applebee's.
That's how you do it. We don't have one near us, thankfully. I think our HOA has run them off as like, you are too low bar for our area. So I appreciate that. But yeah, I pulled up their page and they have photos flashing here. They have 4 photos repeating. 2 of the 4 photos have alcoholic beverages in it. So my excitement was there and then immediately shattered because to hell with that. So anyways, I just fucking hate Applebee's. I've never had a good time there. But anyway, we are currently streaming live on YouTube. If you're watching us or if you're listening to us on the podcast, welcome. Don't forget to like and subscribe our channel and our podcast anywhere you listen to your shows because we want to do that. But Mike, let's get into this because you've got to watch some things this week. We were talking earlier. I have had those rare 10 to 12 hour work days for this week, so I haven't had a chance to do anything. But you got to watch one new thing and one thing from last year, and I want to talk about this first thing because I'll let you do it because I've only seen. We talked about there's only one scene I've seen like 5 to 10 times online already, and I love it. So I want to get your opinion on this.
Yeah, could you believe a 2-film franchise, which honestly I forgot existed, got turned into a series on Peacock, and that is Ted, the series, a prequel series where you take Mark Wahlberg's character back when he's 16 years old, and then him and the adventures of his teddy bear, which is still continued to be voiced by Seth MacFarlane. And to preface this, I have seen the first two Ted movies and I remember liking them, but I don't remember much about them. I remember them being raunchy. I remember the bear being funny. You know, Mark Wahlberg had like the star power to kind of make this a little bit more of a bigger kind of like box office return, I think. And but then it just kind of like, I feel like it died off, you know, after the first two films. But this series, it's roaring back. The 7 episodes on Peacock. They range to about, I want to say like 35 to 40 minutes, and it's just hilarious. It's so funny. I don't know if it's funnier than the Ted movies because I haven't seen them in a while, or I just haven't partaken in Seth MacFarlane humor in quite a while. Like, I can't remember the last time I watched American Dad or Family Guy, which I was very formative experience for me when in my teenage years watching those shows. But like Ted, the series is just great. It's super funny. You know, it's a period piece, you know, back in the 90s when Mark Wahlberg's character was in high school. If there's any sort of like, you know, plot to the show, it would be this is when Ted finally starts going to school with, oh God, what is Mark Wahlberg's character called? Johnny?
Either way,
I can't quite remember. So it's now Ted's going to school, and it's just hilarious humor. I've seen some people describe it as like this is the closest we're going to get to like a live action Family Guy. There's no cutaways, which I know Family Guy is famous for, but you know I prefer American Dad more myself, and they've never really done a lot of the cutaway humor in that show. But yeah, my wife and I were just like cracking up like stitches, like laughing at this show. There's every once in a while there are these hilarious kind of one-off characters where like, oh, he goes into a pharmacy to buy condoms for the first time, and there's this weird pharmacist who's just like, oh, here's my specialty. I always like to pick the right condom for the right high school boy, and it's just everyone's weirded out, and it's just hilarious. You gotta go check it out. I'm sad it's only 7 episodes. No confirmation of a season 2 yet, but like, who denies Seth MacFarlane? You know, he has a smash hit on Fox with the Orville. I think it's on Fox. You know, obviously he's got the long-running animated series. Pretty much everything he does seems to be successful. So I don't see why you don't give this more.
Peter Griffin, you talking about that guy who's in Fortnite? You talking about that Fortnite character?
Yeah. Yes, but he's you know, they made him fatter for the TV show. I know he used to be fit canonically, historically. That's the origin of his character is muscular. But yeah, they had to make him fat for the cartoon.
Yeah.
But another thing that I think kind of goes unappreciated, and this is just, I guess, the signs of the time with technology. But the visual effects on Ted are astounding. Like the visual fidelity of his fur, you know, there's unique topology on his body. Like there's patches where like the fur has been worn away. There's absolutely seamless transitions where they're handing off bongs to each other. And I can't find the digital seam anywhere. I don't know if the bong's real and there's a green glove grabbing it, or if it's a fake bong and the actor's holding it. I was mesmerized by the cast shadows that Ted has when he's just walking down like a brightly lit hallway. Like it is like seamless. So I'm very impressed just by like whatever team is in charge of like I guess post-production and also on set. Because I think maybe only one time did I feel like maybe one of the actors didn't quite get the eye line of where Ted was supposed to be. But he feels like a real character. It's really astounding. It's kind of like the same feeling I get when I'm in like a 2.5 hour intensive IMAX viewing of like Avatar 2, you know, where I feel like I could walk out and these blue people would just be out there in the lobby getting popcorn. I feel like I could like walk into, you know, a local high school and like see Ted walking around making fun of people.
Yeah, I was gonna say the only thing I've seen from this show, and it did look good. It was a clip where he absolutely roasts this high school mean girl, if you will. And I was like, I've watched that a couple times. Like, damn, that's pretty good. It's not something you're gonna get on network television from Seth MacFarlane, that's for sure.
Yeah. And I guess to bring it home and to sell it just one last, if you're just like, oh, this type of like thing isn't for me. The show surprisingly has a lot of heart in it. It's not just kind of like dumb for dumb's sake, where like if you're watching like Family Guy, the whole joke the whole episode is to like roast Meg, and like she never kind of gets, you know, her revenge, or there's no character development. There's actual like solid character development. People are growing and becoming better people in this show. So huge recommendation for Ted. Go check it out on Peacock. But it's going to be harder for me to recommend the next thing that I checked out. I saw the trailer for this last year, and I really wanted to go check it out and see it because it looked really, really cool. High concept science fiction. But after it came out and I failed to go see it myself, I never heard anybody talk about it. Like no buzz, no even like hot takes. It seemed like just nobody went and saw the movie. So I was like, well, this seems like, you know, just ripe for the pickings. Like I have no preconceived notions for 2023's The Creator from Gareth Edwards, who you might know from Rogue One, writer-director of that. He also had kind of, I don't know if it'd be considered indie, but maybe lower budget Monster or The Monster. I don't remember exactly what it was called. And he also did the first I think it was 2014, that Godzilla movie, the kind of first like kickoff of that, new Godzilla franchise.
He was wasn't he tied to a Star Wars? Was he the one guy who they fired and then we got J.J. Abrams to do?
I don't know. It's hard to tell.
Rogue One. He did Rogue One. He did Rogue One.
He did do Rogue One.
Yeah. Sorry.
But I feel like none of the achievement that maybe he's gotten had translated to The Creator. It's a bit unfortunate because, you know, you're like, oh, unique, you know, IP-less based science fiction movie. Let's dive in. John David Washington. I never remember
the guy from Tenet.
First. Yeah, the guy from Tenet, the protagonist from Tenet. He stars in the movie, and the visual effects are beautiful, which, you know, makes sense as Gareth Edwards has a visual effects background in Hollywood before he kind of started making movies. But the story just unfortunately falls flat. There's so many kind of futuristic technology-based ideas that, you know, if you look at them in a silo, they're kind of cool and impressive. But once you kind of put them all in the movie, it feels like we're not in a cohesive world that makes a whole lot of sense. You know, we're dealing with super advanced, hyper realistic AI. So it just some stuff, even though we're in the future, seems a little too far fetched. Some stuff seems a little bit cheesy. And then at the same time, the story really never elevates and meets the visual effects, because the fidelity of the trailer, everything looks so sophisticated, but the story, not quite to the level of Rebel Moon. But like, I've seen all of these tropes before. I've seen all these story moments. You're just kind of feels like you're watching another version of, like, you know, that classic, what is it, Lone Wolf and Cub kind of stories where you have like the grown-up protagonist is protecting the young innocent,
Mandalorian.
You know, yeah, exactly, the Mandalorian. Or I was also thinking of Logan as well. But you just don't really come to care for the characters as much. And it was just a little bit unfortunate. So I think, honestly, you could probably skip The Creator, and you could just do what I did, where, like, you know, once you're about 30 minutes into it and you start to realize, oh, I don't think this is going to be for me, you just kind of pick up the remote and kind of start jumping around, fast forward a couple of bits. But yeah,
audience scores were 76%, so it looks like it could be hit or miss based on that too.
Unfortunately, so I will be a little bit more guarded the next Gareth Edwards project that hits the big screen.
Okay, well, let's jump into news then. Let's start with Super Bowl discussion coming up in 2 weeks, Mike. Not 2 weeks, 3 weeks, right? The 11th.
Oh, you're asking the wrong person.
Yeah, it's the 11th. It's not the first week in February; it's the second week in February. It is, I believe, the 11th. I keep seeing. I don't follow sports, but I keep seeing people say the NFL is rigged. I don't know what this means, but apparently it is rigged. So I'm not here to get into that, but I am excited to have a watch party, if you will, because guess what, Mike? Commercials. We're always excited for the commercials, and you know what makes this year exciting for commercials, Mike, is there's really only one DC movie and one Marvel movie this year for the first time in forever. Can you imagine that?
I'm kind of looking forward to it. Like, let us miss this stuff so we're excited to go back, you know?
And it's fine. So I think last year was very overcrowded. I think this March is going to be very overcrowded. But I do think one of the trailers we are going to get, Mike, is in fact for Deadpool 3. I feel it in my bones. They're going to promote the hell out of this. Starting in February. And our first topic is Deadpool 3, and there are some materials out in the wild already, which makes me think that they're gearing up for the big push this year, right? Take your marketing dollars, spend it on a property that's already proven to be successful. Use Ryan Reynolds, use Hugh Jackman, use the comedy, have some fun with it. I fully expect this. Do you have any doubts we will get a Deadpool 3 trailer?
Oh God. I mean, what else does the Disney Corporation have to advertise? I feel like there's been some years where they don't really show up all that much, but it's because, they're just kind of letting, the other like media conglomerates like fill in those slots. Just seems like there's not a whole lot of really big things to promote this year entertainment wise, right? You kind of got to be a really, really big property to afford and, justify a Super Bowl spot. And really from like the Disney side, like, I don't know what Pixar movie is supposed to come out this year, but there theoretically could be a Pixar movie. Like,
well, it's actually
like, those don't.
Our second bullet point, Inside Out 2. I fully expect an Inside Out 2 trailer.
Oh yeah, I mean that could be there as well. But yeah, there's just for the better. I think there's just less this year, and I'm kind of curious. Does it feel like less, or is this more of a return to normalcy, how things used to be? And I'm looking forward.
I think this is a little lighter. I would expect 2 movies, right? Like 2 movie kind of a year for Marvel. The only thing I can think of is I don't have it in here, but Deadpool 3 from Disney. In terms of the same thing, I've got Ghostbusters, right? Frozen Empire, Godzilla, a New Empire. I think those are given simply because they're around the corner. So that we've already seen. That's not a surprise. A Quiet Place prequel. What's it called? Day Zero, whatever it's called.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's gonna get 1. We got Inside Out 2. I've got Despicable Me 4, Mike. I mean, Illumination. They're milking those Despicable Me things, the Minions.
I mean, those coffers are full, not only from all of those Minion sequels, but from the Super Mario movie. Yep. They got marketing dollars to spend, man.
Exactly, they're gonna do that. I also went with in terms of that, House of the Dragon season 2 is launching this summer. That's probably gonna get a big thing. HBO, I don't know what HBO has coming this year, so I think that's gonna be huge for them to do some stuff for HBO Max. I didn't know Twisters was getting a sequel, or Twister was getting a sequel called Twisters. So I
didn't know either.
I think this is going to be, they're going to need to put that out there a little bit. So I think that's going to be happening. And then a long shot here, Sonic and Knuckles. I know it's been filming. I know the first 2 movies of it. I think we could get a small 15-second teaser, Mike.
I feel like, I mean, I don't know if I'm just imagining this, but I feel like that first Sonic movie, there was a trailer at the Super Bowl. I don't know if it was pre-Sonic facelift or post-Sonic facelift. I feel like Sonic has been to the Super Bowl before.
To 2022, actually, last year. So yeah, the Sonic 2 one came out last year. So that seems right. I also looked up here. I forgot. Disney has Fox movies, so the Fox movies I forgot to look up. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes might get another trailer. And then the new Alien Romulus movie coming from Fede Alvarez could get a trailer.
Oh, yeah. And also, like, I'm just trying to think of people with deep pockets. I wouldn't be surprised to see something Apple TV related. I don't know what it would be. I mean, Monarch, they've already wrapped up, so they couldn't really promote anything new there. I don't know if Severance Season 2 is going to make it to air this calendar year, but... but that almost seems too niche for a Super Bowl spot. So
maybe do you think they'll just do like an Apple TV in general commercial? Like,
yeah, they could do that, and then they could have like short little clips of stuff that they have coming up. Trying to think of any big budget thing that they have. Like, don't they have an Alien TV show actually that they're working on?
No, I think that's still Fox.
Hulu?
Oh, yeah, okay, Hulu. The Harrison Ford show second season might be coming sooner than later.
Shrinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, there could be a highlight reel there.
I can imagine a highlight reel for that. For sure. There's that. And the last one, I forget about this movie, come out every year, Mike, and I think this could be a long shot, but a good opportunity. That's Joker 2, the only DC movie coming out this year.
Well, I feel like we're kind of lucky on the DC Marvel side of things. The 2 movies we're getting this year are very proven characters.
Both R-rated.
With the box office. Yeah, R-rated. Yeah, that's a good point. I feel like I am kind of soft in general on Deadpool 2. I haven't really gone back and rewatched it. I remember liking it in theaters, but I was like, it didn't quite capture the feeling I got when I saw the first Deadpool movie.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm hoping, like, it's been so, like, this is the thing, it's been so long since Deadpool 2, even though, like, I was, soft on my excitement on it, it's been so long now I'm actually looking forward to Deadpool 3.
Hmm.
And I think that's how you do it. And it's been maybe not equally as long, but it's been a while since I've seen the first Joker movie.
I haven't
Like we
rewatched it
totally,
since the theaters, actually.
yeah. So like I think that'll be fun. I
Yeah.
think this is going to be a good calendar year for us, Chris.
Yeah, yeah. I would I if we come back the week after the Super Bowl talking about Joker 2 and Deadpool 3, I think we've all won at the end of the day. So I'm very very excited to dive into those. If anyone else has any things they think that we're gonna see or not see, snacks you like for Super. I love getting ready for Super Bowl snacks, Mike. I love doing it.
It's not a groundbreaking snack by any means, but it's something that my wife and I just threw together ad hoc the other week, where we had I don't remember what type of cheese it was, but it was kind of like a somewhat
You got me
softer.
at, you got me at cheese. So
It was a somewhat softer white cheese. So I don't know if it was like a Havarti or what exactly it was. We slapped that on a cracker, and then we threw down a little bit of like strawberry preserves, and ooh boy, all together, ooh those were hitting for sure. So it's not as gluttonous as you might see, at a normal Super Bowl party, but I would recommend throwing down some cheese with some sweetness on top of it. That's my recommendation.
Mixing it up a little bit. All right, all right.
Yeah.
I've got So for Christmas, there's this YouTube or Instagram channel called Good Boy Noah, and it's this cheetah puppet that sings, and the guy sings, and he's like, "Cheetah, teach me how to cook things."
He's like, "Yo, cheetah."
Hey, yo, cheetah. He's like, "What's up?" So that's one of my favorite things in the world. I love this channel. I've loved it for too long, but it's like one of those things. I'm like, I'm scared to share this with people because they're gonna think I'm weird. But it's like Muppet adjacent, so I see it. So for Christmas, my wife got me the Cheetah sauce box. He has 3 hot sauces.
I had no idea.
A Chipotle, a Salsa Verde, and a Hickory. And she also got me the hat, the trucker hat for it as well, because I love wearing that. So I'm excited to dive into hot sauces. I think my Super Bowl this year is going to be a hot sauce sampler platter all around.
Do it.
Because everyone's got the cheese dips. We've got the dips on. People have dips covered. I'll let them bring their dips. I'll bring them whatever they want for that. But I want to do. Think I'm going to get the meats and the hot sauces and get that covered. Pretty early on. So. Man, I'm hungry. It is dinner time here. I am ready for some food. But anyway, let's shift back into gears, back into Deadpool 3. Mike, the reason I bring this up, and I shared this with you, and I asked you before I sent this to you, I'm like, Mike, do you want to see some of the new merchandise promo art for Deadpool 3 that is now in the wild? Because there are sticker sheets for Disney coming out, and one of them is actually Deadpool 3. And it includes Wade with his 2 swords pulling out his back, and then a fully suited up Wolverine, mask and all, with his claws in the front of it.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, you do a really good job protecting me from spoilers, but unfortunately, the Wolverine side of things the cat's totally out of the bag. And even I think the Instagram algorithm a couple weeks ago showed me like the official masked version of Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
I don't know if they just when they were kind of getting back to set, after the strike.
We had it in the notes too, but yeah, it's one of the things like I'm like, you don't want to, like, if you want to be surprised, don't look, right, kind of deal.
Yeah. And honestly, it looked great because there were so many people like doing surprisingly good, convincing photoshops of other masks on Hugh Jackman, but they all looked weird. They all looked like they were either too wide or the fins were just too much. And I just didn't like the way that it looked. But kind of once I've seen like the official direction for it, it actually makes sense and I like it. Yeah. So I feel like they've really nailed the proportions of like making it somewhat believable in reality, but also being true to kind of a comic book origin. And I think it also helps that I don't think we officially know the origin of this Logan, but it seems like it's going to be an alternate version, which maybe kind of protects us from trying to imagine a previous Hugh Jackman putting this mask on, when he was a little bit more grounded in reality.
So if I think they said it's at least if they're still acknowledging the previous timeline. Now, again, it could be an alternate universe. That's perfectly fine. But it is before Logan, but after the Wolverine. Because at the end of the Wolverine, they tease the costume, right? Remember that she gifts them a costume.
Oh yeah, like when they're getting on the plane.
Yeah. So
right?
so I think it's after that. But what is cool about Deadpool and that whole movie, they literally defined and refined and made white-eyed costumes work. Like, it works in Deadpool. They added the little motion to it. It's got enough to make you believe he's looking at it. You don't think, oh, why is it white? You know, it doesn't take you out of the film. And to do that to Hugh Jackman's Wolverine is just the icing on the cake here, Mike. Like, really, like, you don't have to see his eyes. They made the white eyes work in Deadpool. They're making it work on Hugh Jackman here.
Yeah.
And
also, like, it makes sense in the world of Deadpool. It's probably one of the, like, even arguably, like, statistically, the funniest Marvel movie just based on jokes and just the tone of the movie. So seeing a character like with like wide eyes, like emoting through the mask, which kind of breaks reality a little bit, like we're okay with because we know that the ride we're going on. Like trying to imagine like watching Logan, one of the most serious superhero movies I've ever seen, and putting this mask on, well, you know, I think would kind of conflict with the tone a little bit. But
the turn
I
and
know
wink
the
at
working...
the camera doesn't work in Logan.
Yeah. Like I know the working title for this at one point was like Deadpool and Wolverine or something like that.
And it still could be. It still could be. Right now it's untitled, but
yeah. But finally seeing them in marketing material together, it kind of solidifies that like, oh, this is more than a cameo. This is more than like maybe even more of a presence than Deadpool and Cable in the last Deadpool movie. It seems like Wolverine is part of the movie.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
On,
I mean, look at this. Imagine this on a poster. How does this not make $1 billion at the box office?
Right. Exactly.
I mean, I feel like we have not captured magic like this in a while.
And it's literally, again, for people who aren't clicking on it or can't see it because they're listening, it is the Jim Lee X-Men from the animated series, right? It's yellow, it's black, it's blue. He's got the little covers over his hands where his claws come out, the little metal, covers. Like, it is what you imagined Wolverine looking like in the 90s. If he was to walk in right now, what do we look like? This is it right here. So I absolutely love it. It's great. Now, I will say there is, for those who want to avoid spoilers, there are other on-set photos. I did send one to Mike of actual variants on set filming. I'm not going to tell you what variants, but we will have multiple variants all at the same time in this movie, which is great because that just, solidifies the multiverse aspect of it a little bit. And you say, I know we have seen before, we've had confirmation of Dogpool already, like Deadpool and Dogpool. So I don't, I'm not going to confirm it, but Mike, I sent you a live action photo of one, and it gives me a giggle to look at a little bit. Like I don't want to tell people what it is, but there are other variant photos out there for people to see. So you can start blocking those Deadpool keywords now because next 6 months or so, it's going to be rough to avoid some of these on-set spoilers for it. Exciting. Another Marvel movie that I have a lot of high hopes for, Mike, and I think you could probably say the same, is Spider-Man 4. We've had a really, really good run of MCU Spider-Man movies. And the next Spider-Man 4, obviously they're working on getting a director, and they haven't locked that down. But the rumor for this is that it's a villain of someone we've not seen in live action yet. They're not revisiting, like Sony is, a rebooted Mysterio or a rebooted Dr. Octopus. Or yet another Green Goblin, Mike. But they are going to give us someone we've never seen before, which is exciting. Obviously, one of the things that they kind of teased with us in the first Spider-Man Homecoming was a Scorpion character, right? They had the guy who's supposed to be Scorpion there, and he asked, what's his name? Michael Keaton's character, hey, who is Spider-Man? He's like, I don't know. That's one. Another character is Chameleon, but I feel like that's going to be somebody actually in Kraven. I think it's Kraven's half brother in the comics. So I think that's going to show up in the Kraven movie. And lastly, we've talked about this before in the Spider-Man game solution. We've had a lot of ground level characters, and Spider-Man's going back to ground level because no one knows who he is, and he's in New York. Tombstone was another character that came to mind.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts, Chris. So
okay.
The first thing that pops into my head,
not you. Go on.
The first thing that pops in my head is I just try to think of the trajectory of the next kind of like phase of Spider-Man, right? Naturally, my brain gravitates towards another trilogy, right? And it's hard to imagine Tom Holland going more after another trilogy. So I got to imagine these next 3 films, we kind of sunset his version of the character. And also it probably will coalesce with like whatever Secret Wars type of universe reset thing that they might end up doing. You know, there's lots of craziness that they could do.
He
but
could be a big star of that, you know, go out on a big note as well. Kind of like Captain America did. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm kind of framing this as another trilogy in my head. It could be one less movie, it could be one more movie, or maybe it's like the third movie, it's more of like he's in a bigger film, but he has an emotional tie-up in the movie.
I'm going to throw in just a sprinkle of suggestion on top of your thoughts here. Maybe they do this trilogy as a transition to Miles in the MCU.
Yeah, and that's another thing I was thinking too. It is very, very hard to imagine with the popularity of Spider-Verse out there in the world and these Spider-Man games that Miles Morales does not get soft introduced in one of these next coming Spider-Man movies. It would almost be a waste. Like, how do you not do it? So I gotta think that somehow that leans into that. So,
and Homecoming did have a, if you want to say this, an upcoming softies, an even softer tease, if you will, the softest
they did have
cheese, if you will, with his uncle Aaron, who also made a cameo appearance in Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, well. and Donald Glover, a big pull, be a great guy to bring back, and I feel like he's going to even age into the role even more. I hope he's open to doing it because, you know, maybe imagine an Uncle Aaron popping on the screen in the next 6 to 8 years. You know, he Donald Glover already has like the grizzled kind of like beard fashionista out there in the world. I feel like he could do a very great Prowler. So obviously that's set up. And the thing that I'm most excited about is he doesn't have the superpowered suit anymore. Obviously, he has his own intelligence and his own ability to build stuff, but he does not have kind of like the Stark machine behind him anymore. So I think some of these more grounded characters like Chameleon or Tombstone make a lot of sense. I really want a moment in the next movie where he's really struggling to take down a villain that normally we would have seen him do in like the blink of an eye. Like, I think the scene is now officially cut because I think I still keep remembering it in a trailer where he's like inside of a restaurant or something and he's got like the Iron Spider suit on and he takes out like a bunch of goons. I think it got cut from the movie.
That was Spider-Man 3, No Way Home. At the intro, like he still had that suit because he was accepting the check and then he walked out and they was supposed to have that kind of thing.
Yeah, like I want to see him like really, really struggle because that's going to be fun. And a character like Tombstone would be perfect, like a big, like lumbering dude, and like, you know, like he'd be like, oh, if I just had like these gadgets, this would be no problem. But like I always complain about, they need a true origin of Tombstone with like explaining his like super strength in some way. They can do whatever they want, but don't just show me like a gray skinned giant statue and don't explain why he can punch Spider-Man in the face and he flies across the room, you know. Right.
Well,
like
if anything,
explain it somehow.
And I would say one of the things with it is Spider-Man movies, they've done a good job introducing the villains, but his villains were always Stark based, right? Like literally Tony Stark ruined the Vulture's life. He ruined the Mysterio's life, and then the other one was the Spider-Verse, where he was dealing with the other Spider-Man's villains, which had origins. So I don't think they'll have a problem doing an introduction on a villain or doing that. I think honestly, some of the Amazing Spider-Man's problems where they spent too much time introducing a villain's origins rather than hey, we kind of get it, move along. I would think the other rumor that we have on the board here that we've talked about months ago is going to be like Daredevil was supposed to be in this, right? And it's going to be like a street level hero kind of issue, right, that they're dealing with. And if they choose someone to fight, one thing that Spider-Man, it's his great power comes great responsibility, is none of his villains have really killed anybody before, right? Like other than No Way Home, which is great when they not that's great. They killed Aunt May, but like there was actually stakes on the line before. Like, if he's fighting someone street level, they need to deal with like, hey, these people will kill. Like, it's not like, oh, they're just, posturing. Like, these people are dangerous, and he needs to have those consequences, those stakes on the line to make it more believable along the way. Because, again, I agree. If it's a trilogy, start small, work your way back up. But like, these people need to be threats other than if Tombstone doesn't have powers, he just needs to be like someone like Wilson Fisk, a Kingpin-esque character, right? Who is, yes, he can brawl, he's not invincible, but like he's smarter than he looks, right? He's playing the longer game. So I'm excited for Spider-Man. I'm glad that everyone, if any of these rumors come out true, everyone's on the same page. They need to be a street level. He's a street level hero again. He's not Tony Stark's sidekick, if you will, at the end of the day. So we'll keep you posted. But speaking of Kingpin, we're going to talk a little bit about Daredevil here. Daredevil Born Again resumes filming this week after we've heard all the retooling last summer, 2023, right? We got all those reports. Everyone's talked about it. They've got a new, people running the show. Their TV showrunners are retooling, using some of the old footage, but making it kind of align with more of the Netflix Daredevil series, more than the procedural drama that we were, going to get. But one of the other notes was this week is that they're bringing back Philip Silvera, who was the stunt fight coordinator on Daredevil for the Netflix shows. And
that's great.
And he is going to be doing the same thing and will be the second unit director. And second unit, for people who don't know, usually films all the action scenes when the main actors aren't there. Like they use stand-ins and stunts people to get that done.
I mean, I don't know much about this guy's career outside of, just doing stunt choreography for the original Daredevil. But I do like that he's kind of, it seems like being elevated or promoted to second unit director. Maybe we could see this guy creating his own kind of like John Wick in the future now that he's kind of working his way up the ladder. I think that's pretty cool. I was thinking if it's going back into production, this is our kind of first Marvel streaming show that we've kind of been promised is going to have longer run episodes. Like what is it? 16, 17 episodes?
It's supposed to be 18, but I will add an asterisk. One of the rumors or things is they've not finalized the new episode count yet because they planned 18 and then like, hey, we'll fix it in post. With the new TV things, they may have like 16 instead, but yes, 16 to 18.
And originally I would have told you, we probably won't be seeing this until 2025. But usually when these TV shows are longer in run, they're kind of shooting them sequentially in order, right? Because they have, they're working through the timeline of the season. There could be a point where they're shooting and filming and editing and airing all at the same time. I mean, that's what happens classically with like, network TV shows, right? They start shooting them, they start airing them, and, about like 6 weeks into production, that first episode starts to air and they're working while they're airing. That's kind of like a traditional like TV pipeline. So yeah, there's a chance that, who knows, maybe this could, slot into the fall cycle.
It will not. This is January 2025. That much we do know from previous reports. But that's still 18 episodes is nothing to scoff at, right? They're going to be taking a lot of time. But so I think maybe they could still be doing some editing because my concern is thinking of an 18-week show, Mike. How much Marvel? How are they dropping all 18 over each week? Are they going to do batches of 3 like other shows have done before?
I could see it like if they design a mid-season finale, I could see like a break in the middle, do like a 1 or 2 month break for them to drop, whatever their next Star Wars thing is in there, then come back with more Daredevil. But
18 weeks is like, again, that's like 4.5 months of the show.
They're bringing back the traditional showrunner style. The new WGA rules kind of puts a more writer friendly, protections in for the production. So I'm just saying, like, now, like, this show is going to be structured so much more similarly to what, creates good work. And it seems like that they're just going to have more flexibility. So if they feel like, we do want to move this up, to like November or December, I wouldn't be shocked to see if it would happen. But January next year, I'm also not surprised. That almost seems like sooner than I would expect it to be, even if it was like the normal Marvel, like 6 episode,
And I think it's because they're able to salvage some of the previous shot footage already. Like, they're like, we don't need to take all of it out. So I think that's going to save them some time on that. I am interested to see how this shakes out because this will be our first, I guess our toes in a new water for Marvel, right? the shows so far have been the old production model, film it like a movie, fix it in post. We've got 3 of those this year that I know of, right? We've talked about it a little bit. Agatha, well, we just watched Echo, Agatha, and Ironheart is still on the plate. For those who forgot, Ironheart is still on the plate. So we'll see if anything changes that. Do you think now, because of this, do you think they may be like, okay, hey, we want to go refilm anything for the other shows to maybe help enhance it because we now know what we did wrong?
I mean, I'm worried about Iron. You know, I felt like her character had a rough intro in Wakanda Forever. If the show has kind of already been shot, done for the most part,
it's finished now. But I think that's one of those shows that could get a lot of post production because of the suits, right? So they could film some more stuff, I feel.
I mean, I'm less worried about the visual fidelity and just more the story in general. Because I mean, it was cooked. It was cooked in the old old Disney Plus crockpot.
Well, I'm gonna go on a limb and say, people said the same thing about Echo, and it's been,
that's true.
Positive.
I love being proved.
Yeah.
So prove
exactly. I'm not saying anything Agatha or Ironheart are going to be great shows by any means. It's just Echo was one of those things like we expected less and it became more. So I wouldn't be able to put it past them maybe filming some other stuff. Like, hey, we want to redo an episode or something along the way. But we'll see.
They gave us a show with the Falcon and the Winter Soldier together, and I hated it.
Yeah.
Anything can happen.
Well, it's Anthony Mackie. It's mostly him. Take him out of that.
Boy.
Probably got a good show, don't you?
Yeah,
that's what I thought. All right. Well, since we're going to talk about what if scenarios, Mike, let's jump into what if here. Marvel's what if season 4 is apparently looking likely. I know we know 3's in the case, but reports are they're seeing success and some returns on the animated properties, and they look like they might have a season 4 cooking in the books. But the other part of this is Marvel, maybe more specifically Kevin Feige, are mulling over an animated movie release in the MCU for the first time, due to the popularity of not tied to what if, but something maybe like Spider-Verse or Mutant Mayhem because of the popularity of animated films right now.
I love that. I hope they push the envelope of visual experimentation because that's what's really been getting me excited. I wonder if maybe they have a certain story arc or a character in mind, something that can kind of take advantage of some of the freedom that animation gives you. But yeah, this excites me.
Yeah, I think there'd be some stories maybe they've not been able to tell because maybe the character was not right or the budget was too high, because you can have a cheaper budget on animation, right? Like drawing frames, like we talked about, is way cheaper than having actors and green screen and stuff like that, so and less restrictions. So I would say maybe it's a character that we've not seen before. Do you think it's gonna, so here's gonna be the split I'm gonna ask you. Is it an Earth-based character, Mike, or is it a space-based character?
I mean, the first thing that popped into my head was the Savage Lands, because like a talking dinosaur would just be really, really fun to do. I feel like you could pull that off in animation pretty well. But it seems like they're finally kind of like seeing the return of investment just on animation over there at Marvel, because that's kind of the gamble that you take when you're making animated projects. Is there's a lot of financial commitment up front, right? It takes a lot longer to make this stuff. You have to hire a lot more people to create all the beautiful artwork and everything, and it takes a while. You usually have to order more up front to make it financially worth it, to put all that effort into it. But it seems like it's actually starting to turn out well. So like, yeah, let's keep the machine going. Let's make more what if. Let's make an animated movie. We've kind of proven that people are staying subscribed to Disney Plus.
Yeah,
because of it.
Well, this could also be theatrical. I don't want to take that off the table. Like a theatrical release as well, to just test it. I know James Gunn has said a lot about they're going to be doing animated movies over there. They're already doing great animated movies at Warner Brothers, right? Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 1 just dropped recently. Part 2 is coming up. So they could be looking at their competitor and saying, hey, what's on your side of the fence? Can we get that too along the way? So and all the DC ones, by the way, have not gone to HBO Max. They're going to buy them in physical or buy them digitally first. So I think that's a good strategy to get some money, out of those things without saying, hey, throw it on streaming. We'll get subscribers eventually down that. So, yeah, well, we'll keep you guys posted on that. But that brings us to one of our main points here in our thumbnail images here is Star Wars, and we're getting to Star Wars. But Star Wars, I got some schedules for you, Mike. We'll talk a little bit about this. Are you able to keep track of anything Star Wars going on? Because I know you have a hard time.
Yeah, I have a hard time.
Okay, great. So we reported last week that Mandalorian and Grogu is coming as the next movie, and that's going to be coming in 2025. Reports are Rey's movie, Episode 9, whatever they call it, is coming in 2026. Dawn of the Jedi, which is the first Jedi movie from James Mangold, is 2027. And then Dave Filoni's Heir to the Empire movie thing will be maybe by 2028 at the latest. So it sounds like starting next year, we're going to be getting Star Wars event films in theaters again.
Gee, I mean, like, this obviously does not help my timeline whiplash. This makes it worse. We are oscillating so aggressively back and forth to the beginning of the Jedi. Like, it's just insane.
We're covering the entire spectrum here, the past and the future, all in one.
Obviously, any of these movies on their own can be good, right? Hire a good writer, get a good director in there. I could sit down and enjoy any one of these, right? But I feel like when you're talking about these like big properties, like where's that X factor? Where's that synergy? We got it a little bit with Mando and Grogu because I gotta imagine that ties into this 2028 Filoni thing,
the Disney Plus verse, if you will, or timeline, if you will.
Yeah. I mean, bless Daisy Ridley. She did the best with what she was given, but like, boy, do I not really care to return to the sequel of that last Star Wars movie. So I don't know what they're going to do there.
It's a 15-year jump, by the way. They did confirm that in the movie, which is about how that would work for her age. She's aged into it, if you will, along the way.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, I guess there's some creative stuff that you could do.
It's not. I don't think it's. I say episode 9. I don't think it's episode 9. I think they're going to take this in a non Skywalker saga approach, if you will.
Like, yeah. You gotta differentiate yourself.
My hope would be, and this is hope, and this will probably very unfounded, Mike, that maybe Rey's movie, maybe she's training Jedi, right, or trying to do some Jedi training, and in that movie, one of the books or one of the stories is about the first Jedi, and then we get the movie about that story the next year with Dawn of the Jedi.
Yeah, that could be helpful.
In theory, again, now mind you, I'm optimistic here by all means.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily want a Star Wars movie to rely off a MacGuffin like an object, but at least that would be a creative way to be like, oh, if Rey has to uncover some sort of artifact, maybe we see the origin, the creation of that artifact in that James Mangold movie, and it has like this pure distillation of Force energy. And Rey finds it because she is such a strong Jedi. She's searched through the past ancestors. Like,
it could tie into Dave's Mortis Gods, actually, the Force beings that we were teased at the end of Ahsoka as well.
Yeah, that could be.
I'm hopeful that someone's pulling. Maybe Dave's pulling the strings on the creative thing. Maybe he's got something going on. We don't know yet.
Yeah. It seems like there is no issue with creating an interesting or fun hero in the Star Wars universe, right? It's always easy to justify somebody fighting for good, but it seems really hard for Star Wars to find a good villain, because it seems like most of these villains just end up being like mustache twirling like baddies, right? Where it's just like I'm thinking like all of like the generals that we've seen in the Star Wars universe. Like, why are you so evil? Like, you are so inherently bad. You're exploding an entire planet. What brings a person to do that? And I feel like the closest they've done to ever exploring any of that is in the Andor show, where you kind of get to see like, oh, they're think Nazis. That they're right.
They're Nazis.
Yeah, like the thumb is being pressed on them. They want to be fighting on the winning side, not the losing side. So yeah, I feel like that's the strategy moving forward, made with Rey's movie. Just find a villain that we actually find compelling.
Right, and I think again, if we get rid of the thing I hate the most about the Rise of Skywalker, the last episode 9, or yeah, it was episode 9. I was saying that earlier. Episode 9 is that it relies on luck and destiny too much, right? Like, oh, I found this knife that if I hold it right, I can see where the crashed Death Star is. But they had this knife before the Death Star crashed. So how did that tell us where this special room was, kind of thing, right? Like, it was way too much on coincidence and luck and destiny. So hopefully they can rely on that less and move towards, again, like you said, a compelling arc. We're doing things that aren't, isn't predetermined along the way, and they can make their own path.
At the very least, invent something that they can make a cool theme park ride out of. Something they can tack on a Galaxy's Edge. If you're gonna make movies I don't like, at least let's get a good ride out of it.
Yeah, if anything, Star Wars sounds and visuals, they always hit, no matter how awful the story is. Lastly, I forget Sean Levy, director of Deadpool 3, is doing a Star Wars movie. Like, he has one of those secret, Star Wars movies along the way. So it's Taika Waititi.
Oh, yeah.
But Sean Levy's film, rumored, could be in a different timeline with an older take on Rey, is what I've heard.
Oh boy.
I put no weight in this, simply because he's already doing a multiverse with Deadpool 3, and that's probably where people are getting their wires crossed for this, right?
Yeah, I mean, I hope, and it would be a safe bet that Deadpool 3 is a success on most levels. But what if for some weird reason Deadpool 3 goes the way of like Thor: Love and Thunder? We all thought it was going to be great, and then we got what we got. And then I wouldn't be surprised if a Sean Levy Star Wars movie kind of evaporates.
Yeah. Well, and that's why, it's not really here. It's not on the time we don't know. And I don't think... The one thing I don't think Star Wars needs in their live action universe is multiverses, right? Different timelines.
Oh, God, no.
In live action. So I'm going to chalk this up as a huge rumor, take it with a grain of salt, and someone's probably just, hey, miscommunicating their Deadpool rumors with their Star Wars rumors for Sean Levy, because he's all doing both at the same time. But that leads me into, well, if we can't do that in live action, what if we did it in animation, Mike? The Star Wars What If, which is highly rumored, this has been multiple times before, to get a What If treatment for Disney Plus. It wouldn't be called What If. That's a Marvel thing. That's their comic book series, right? So I don't know if they call it Legends of Star Wars, Tales from Star, whatever they want to call it. I don't know. But I've linked here one of the biggest imager galleries I've ever seen of alternate concept art from Battlefront 3 and 4, which shows variants of every hero and villain known to man in Star Wars, Mike, up to that point. This gallery was uploaded in 2018, so this is not new. This is 6 years old. But the video games in Star Wars, as I was going to say, are no strangers to telling what-if stories or alternate, events. If this battle had gone this way instead of that way, if this character was good instead of evil, or evil instead of good, Force Unleashed had, extra DLC that was like, hey, what if Starkiller was around and, he's the one who did all the damage, in the main timeline movies? Or, what if Luke was evil, kind of thing. So seeing this artwork for these things, but like, yeah, they have the designs down and ready. Like, here's an evil Obi-Wan Kenobi right here, right away. Number 1, number 2. What if he was the one who was, a Sith? And, there's General Grievous as a person if he wasn't a robot. And, Dooku if he stayed a Jedi, so on and so forth. So I think this is a cool opportunity for them to dive into these what if, alternate Star Wars stories that we may have imagined in our heads at some points in our lives since Star Wars has been around.
Yeah, this is weird. This is almost more appealing to me than like the idea of Marvel's what if, because I feel like Marvel what if really relies heavily on, the cinematic MCU in a way, whereas as this is like a what if of my childhood, right?
Yeah.
Like what if Luke missed that vent on the Death Star and they lost the battle, how it would have gone. So it's like kind of like rewriting my childhood in a way, which could be a fun form of nostalgia that I'm not really getting from Marvel's what if, because I was a pretty fully formed human being by the time I saw my first Marvel movie. So
yeah,
this could be a fun change of pace for me, at least.
Yeah, so if you guys get some time, I recommend clicking on this and going through it. You can see how they were planning to put these battles into the game, Battlefront 4, and do alternates. You scroll down enough, you get a redeemed Darth Vader.
I was literally just I'm looking at that right now. I scrolled through the album. Yeah, it's like his face is more exposed. He's still got, mechanical things like keeping him alive, but he's got the Jedi robes on.
Yep.
Really cool.
Yeah, Jedi Darth Maul, if he wasn't a Sith, kind of thing. Animatics, animatic storyboards, I guess, for some of these battles. Yeah, it's pretty cool to look at, some of the stuff you get through here. What if Leia was a Sith instead of a Jedi at the end of it? So absolutely fun. I think this would be a great story. I think we've all had these toys from kids, Mike. We've all done different stories in our heads like this. So I think it would be great. Now this is also separate than Star Wars Visions. Visions is like where different studios get to use their art style to tell stories in the Star Wars universe, and this would be more of a, hey, these scenarios are very different that from, or how do they turn out differently. And then also I did put in here on my notes here, this could reintroduce Starkiller from the Force Unleashed games and its alternate events, which were really cool. They could animate those games you played as Starkiller. He's a fun little character, played by Witwer. What's his name? Sam Witwer, who voices a lot of characters. Who voiced Darth Maul, actually, in the Clone Wars along the way. So check out that concept art. Have some fun with that. Earlier this week, I think last week we talked about Indiana Jones video game would be getting its trailer this week, and it did, and it was confirmed to be called Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. And the name alone didn't do me good till I watched the trailer that came out, Mike. The trailer explained what the Great Circle is, and I'm like, oh, this sounds like Indiana Jones theory, and I like it. It's very fun. So you can click in our show notes and watch the trailer for yourself if you've not already. But one of the cool things about this game, compared to, say, Uncharted or Tomb Raider, which are very similar in veins, is that this is a first-person game, Mike. You play as Indiana himself.
Yeah, I've never really played a Bethesda game before, so I don't know if there's going to be kind of like visual language or kind of movement styles that I'm going to be unfamiliar with that a lot more people have a handle on. So I don't have a lot of experience with kind of like their first person. I know people have like spent half of their lives inside of something like Skyrim that are going to be able to dive right into this. So I did think it was kind of interesting, to take a very iconic looking character and now we don't get to see him so much anymore. It's kind of a bold move.
Yeah, and I think it, to me, again, and everyone else said, it differentiates itself from being Tomb Raider, right, or being Uncharted, which are essentially Indiana Jones games whenever those come out. And I would say that, yes, this is from Bethesda, but it is technically one of the subsidiaries called Machine Games. So this isn't a Starfield. This isn't, a Skyrim kind of thing. This is a company that made like the Wolfenstein games. So they're very familiar with Nazis, if you will, along the way.
Yeah, as long as I get to shoot a Nazi.
Yeah, so you get guns. There's the whip. So the whip becomes, essentially an extension of your character. What was really cool is like seeing like he's got a lighter and like he's in catacombs. He's pushing aside jungle debris for wheels and cogs to be placed right. Very much a puzzler game with a little bit of action along the way.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about the gameplay pieces, everything, at least to me, seemed kind of small and sparse. So I don't know if everything's just not built out quite yet. But like, they would want to, let's showcase Indy using his whip, and there's like one singular bad guy in front of him, like in the middle of like a warehouse or something like that. So I'm sure there's more going on in the scene overall. I could see maybe there's like kind of maybe stealth components to this, because it's not like Indiana Jones is a superhero. He can't like take on hordes of people.
Yeah.
So
or multiple bullets.
So that kind of felt a little odd, but I mean, that's just kind of like trailer cutting choices. It seems like the bigger thing here is, I think a lot of people are talking about the voice, and I am unfamiliar with Troy
Oh my
Baker
gosh.
enough to the point when they showed his name at the beginning of the trailer, I thought this was just like this was the person that like making the game or something, like what's his face from The Last of Us? I can't remember the guy's name, but he's like the creator of like the narrative and everything in the world. Like they throw his name in front of a lot of Last of Us stuff to give it credibility. So I was like, I don't know who Troy Barker is. I guess he's like some sort of video game auteur or something. So I thought through the whole game, I honestly thought I was hearing like, did they bring Harrison Ford in and they're like de-aging his voice? Or are they using AI or something on his voice? Because they made this bizarre decision for every line that's spoken is so flat and monotone. Like at the very end, his voice does get raised like a little bit, but like it's just always like, I need to find this. I wonder where this is going. Like there's like no like big moments, and that's like I love like about Indiana Jones in the movies is like when Harrison Ford is like running away for something and he's like screaming at somebody, and sometimes it's like clipping the microphone, you know?
Yeah. So Troy Baker is probably the biggest, maybe second biggest video game, or I guess animation voice actor in the world, if you will. He voiced the main character in The Last of Us, the guy. What's his name?
Joel.
Joel in The Last of Us. He has been Batman, he has been the Joker, he has been Hawkeye and Loki across all sorts of different things. I was trying to find some more of his recent stuff. You played Miles Morales, the video game? He's Simon Krieger, the villain. He voices that in that one. He's ever. You go look at his Wikipedia page is just ginormous of full stuff. Yeah. But the thing is, he's not doing Troy Baker, because Troy Baker has a voice to himself. He sounds like, once you put him side by side with everybody else, you're like, I know who this is. So the fact that they were even like, you know, they didn't try to like, hey, we're just going to do a different voice, we know it's a video game, it's different, is great. And I to me it sounds pretty good. And I've heard people who are huge fans be like, oh, this sounds like,
I agree,
Harrison Ford. Yeah,
he sounds amazing, to the point where I thought a computer was like recontextualizing Harrison's own voice. Yep. But like they just picked weird line reads, and that's all it is. So I don't know who was in charge of putting this reveal trailer together. Yeah, just felt like they could have done a better job.
The trailer is absolutely 3 minutes of not a lot of action. Right, it's more of the puzzly games. You know, a couple montages of him punching somebody in the face multiple times. So I'm excited to see more about it. But it is coming out this year. But sadly, it is for PC and Xbox alone. So. Maybe they'll have it on Game Pass and people can stream it online. But or maybe it's not even on PC. Maybe it's just Xbox. But I'm excited to play a nice little puzzle solving game, because I also saw Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3 are coming remastered to all the other consoles again this year. Not again, but you know, coming out this year. So I'm excited to dive back into the jungle cave diving spelunking characters, if you will, along the way for that. Moving on, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. I feel like this just came out in theaters last week, Mike. But apparently it is already coming to digital this week, January 23rd in the US, barely a month after theatrical debut. Which
I know you were.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I know you were telling me this movie was picking up a little bit more money overseas, pun intended. But I did have that kind of comparison chart thrown up on my phone, and domestically, it couldn't even achieve what the first Shazam movie did. So this one really kind of fell off pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's still if you look at worldwide, it is gaining. It's above the Flash, well before the Flash petered off. So it is an interesting choice to take it to digital so soon. But my guess is maybe piracy in other markets. There's a lot of piracy in China, Philippines, markets like that. I think, Hispanic markets. So to combat that, they try to get it out so people can buy it without, convenience rather than going to pirate it.
I'm sure it's not the singular reason why they're doing it, but Jason Momoa does have his own like kind of reality travel show that I'm seeing promoted to me every time I open up Maxx, where I think it's just kind of like famous person hangs out with his buddies each and every episode, and he jumps off a plane or something, or goes bungee jumping, rides a motorcycle. I think all of these famous dudes, they just get famous enough to the point where like, I want to make a TV show where I'm just riding around on my motorcycle. Just want to do what Norman Reedus does. So that could be a little bit of like promotion synergy of like, if you're a big Jason Momoa fan, you got to subscribe to Maxx, because that's the home for Momoa.
Yeah. The other and this is not streaming. I know you know that, but this is not streaming. This is for digital purchase. The other thing is, do you think they're trying to sweep the DCEU under the rug quickly? Like, hey, it's done, it's gone, it's out, get the box set, go away, kind of deal. Like,
yeah, it is kind of funny once you see these movies pop up in your Netflix home screen. You're just like, oh yeah, it's dead. Yeah. Like if this like once you see it outside of like the brand's fencing, it's just like, ooh, this feels like we're about to see a 4 DVD combo pack in a bin at Walmart soon, like this is going to get the first Suicide Squad treatment here.
Walmart's killing physical media. They're stopping carrying games, and I guarantee you movies are next. So We won't even get it at the Dollar Bin, Mike. We'll have to go to Dollar General or Family Dollar or something.
It's like also that same feeling like when you're in a Dollar General and you're in the like you wheel your little tiny cart by the toy section and there's like a very old unpopular Funko Pop just sitting there. It's just like, ooh, is that going to be like Orm? Is Orm from the Lost Kingdom going to be on that shelf?
Yeah, Five Below. That's where I imagine we're going to see this before.
Yeah.
But it's coming out soon, and then that'll be it for the DC EU. And this year we'll have Joker 2, which is Elseworlds, and what was the other? The Creature Commandos should be coming out this year to kick off the DCU proper. Weird things that I don't know what they are, Mike, and I can't explain this very well, but there's a comic book called The Maxx, Maxx. If you see the character The Maxx, you're going to recognize him because he's got like this weird toothy smile chin kind of thing going on here, and he's kind of bulky, kind of like a Spawn / Hulk / Mexican wrestler kind of look to him, but the Channing Tatum has announced that he's involved in the adaptation of this comic book series to a movie,
which is absolutely wild to imagine this in live action.
Yes, so I'll go ahead and give you the synopsis here. So a confused, hulking, homeless superhero, the Maxx, tries to protect his social worker and friend Julie from an omniscient serial killer, Mr. Gone, both in the real world, which may or may not be real, and the subconscious fantasy world. Okay, so let's unpack this. He's a homeless superhero. Okay, in a real world or unreal world. So he imagines he's this big guy in the subconscious fantasy world, but in the real world, he's just a homeless dude with a social worker. And it's wild. And I included this actually had a small animated series from MTV in the 90s. I included a clip here. And do you like jazz bass? Because you're going to get some jazz bass in this trailer. And it is just wild to look at. It looks like they animated the comic book a little bit. Like they didn't really... It was minimal actual animation, but yeah. Yeah,
if you're not super familiar with the art style of the character, it's just absolute peak 90s comic books. Like tons of like sharp angles, just ungodly muscular proportions. Like really dark, like blacks and shadows.
It's like a black background, and they colored on it like the Batman kind of did.
Yeah, like strong silhouettes. Surprisingly, you watch clips, and you would expect pouches to be all over this man, and a severe lack of pouches. It kind of seems weird, but they still fit into that '90s comic book vibe, even without pouches adorning the character. So. Yeah, I almost got to imagine, even though Channing Tatum is attached, who is I suppose still a box office driver in a way. This kind of almost feels like, would this be like a double feature with that new Toxic Avenger movie that's coming out? That's kind of the zone where I'm categorizing them in my head.
And it should be, right? Based on the style, based on how weird this is, they should take it as B-movie status and put as much love and care into it, and maybe it'll get there. But this is not AAA movie worthy. Watching this, like, the story alone's wild. It's really weird if you look into it. It didn't live for very long, so I don't know what his draw is to it. But boy, this is just not something I expected to be announced anytime soon.
I don't know. I don't know what executive thought that this was going to be the big payday, but like if Channing Tatum wants to do it, I guess he can get it made.
Yeah, let me see here. Is this Amazon? Is this an Amazon thing? Because I feel like I was like, maybe I read this on Amazon. No, it's Paramount. It's Paramount. They lost Tom Cruise, so they're grabbing at everything. And this is what they got. So we'll keep you guys posted as this moves along. Whether or not or makes it to the screen is we are yet to see. Mike, that's the episode for today, but if people want to know what you're doing, what you're up to, buddy, where can they find you at?
Yeah, they can read my webcomic at liferewardsrisk.com or pickledcomics.com. Chris, if people want to catch up with you, where can they find you?
Find me on Instagram, Valdan87, VALDAN, or Video Game Systems of the same name. I got some video game systems today. I was telling Mike before the show. I'm going to put them on there. We'll let people see these retro consoles, Mike. They're going to get to see them. But if people want to know about our show, where we do our weekly news episodes and our upcoming Madam Web review, Where can they get that at?
Oh, yeah. I looked that movie up the other day because I was like, oh, I kind of weirdly want to get my tickets for it already.
They're not out yet.
It comes out on Valentine's Day,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like that's just really funny. Like, oh yeah, Valentine's. We're gonna synergize.
I
with
looked
that
it
date.
up and I was like, where can I get these tickets? And they're nowhere to be found. I couldn't even pre-order them. I'm like, ooh.
Damn it, Sony! Just take my money.
Take my Cinemark free movie pass for the month. Come on now, we gotta.
Yes,
You're
exactly.
gonna be what it is. But go on.
But head on over to superheroslate.com. That is the headquarters for everything we do here at the show. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify. If everyone chips in all at once, maybe we can get a Super Bowl commercial. Think they got any free slots left open that we can slide in an advertisement?
We
for
could probably
Superhero
get
Slate?
one at like a local channel and like out in like Utah or something, maybe, but like not national.
Oh, that'd be funny. But we love our fans. If you want to be a super fan of this show, all you got to do is share the show with a friend, share the show with a buddy. We'll be here every week, folks.
That's right. We will see you guys next week.